in the Stanley Cup Finals as a shock to everyone. Call me crazy, but I have. Hey guys, Caner88 here, and today I'm going to be doing playoff predictions if the playoffs started today. Now the playoffs are not going to start today. They might never start, but I'm going to do this anyways. So, let's start at the top of the Western Conference with Nashville and St. Louis. I think St. Louis will take this series easily in 5 games and not really have a challenge doing it. So, enough said. Now on to Colorado versus Dallas. I see Colorado taking this in 6th. Even though the Stars made the conference finals last year, they are not the same team. They had a very good season last year. They did not have a good season this year, but that can all change in the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. Now, Vegas versus Winnipeg. And I could see this series going either way. Either teams could win this. Winnipeg isn't the same team. They lost Jacob Trouba, Dustin Byfuglien, a few more names. But they have players that have stepped up. Neil Pionk and a few other guys like that. And they have an amazing offense with an amazing goalie in Connor Hellebuyck. And I can't see them winning this series. Vegas is too good of a team to lose in the first round. They probably would have went to the finals last year if it wasn't for the mess up by the refs and then them collapsing in the 3rd period and giving up 3 goals. But alright, so now on to the next series. Battle of Alberta, Edmonton versus Calgary. This might be my favorite series all playoffs. It's definitely my favorite series in the first round, other than maybe Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So at the deadline, this series would have looked really even, but since then, since the deadline, since Edmonton has acquired Mike Green, Tyler Ennis, Andreas Athanasiou, I can't see them losing to Calgary. So I have them winning in 5, which it could honestly go to 7, but I just see Edmonton overpowering Calgary. So now to the East, where we got Columbus versus Boston. And Columbus did have a magical run last year, but I just don't see that happening again, especially with losses to Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchesne, players like that. I think they will steal a few games just due to their defense, and obviously their goaltending has been really good this year, but I don't see them winning this series. I see them winning at least 2 games and it going to 6. So, not terrible. They get 2 playoff wins. More than Tampa got last year. Alright, so now on to Tampa and Toronto. This is going to be a very good series, but I see Tampa taking in 7. I don't think the Leafs are built for Game 7. Tampa, they're built for any situation other than last year's playoffs. Okay, I'm going to stop throwing shade at Tampa Bay Lightning, but before they go and win the cup. So, I just don't see Toronto as a Game 7 team. They're not really built for Game 7. They don't got clutch players like that. Sure, they did get rid of Zaitsev and Gardner, but really, they're still not built for Game 7s. Now to Washington Capitals versus Carolina. This is going to be a pretty good series, especially if Carolina can get their injuries back, like their injured players back. With the addition to Trocheck, Brady Shea, and Sami Vatanen, their defense is really good. They've built up a little bit more scoring forwards. That did not make sense, but whatever. And yeah, but I don't see them beating the Capitals for the 2nd time in a row. I feel the Capitals will overpower them this time, and the Capitals will win in 6. Okay, now on to Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, old-time rivalry. Two really good teams this year, actually. Philadelphia had a really good season, and I see them taking this in 7. It's going to be a hard-fought battle by both teams, but I see Philadelphia winning, and this might be the last time we see Pittsburgh come even this close to the second round for a while. So I see Philadelphia taking it in 7. I feel like Pittsburgh is past their time. Sure, they do got good players, but I feel like it's just not their time anymore. Okay, now on to the second round. So first series, we got St. Louis versus Colorado. This is going to be a very tight, very close series. I think Colorado will take it in 7. And I actually have like a deeply thought out prediction for this. I think it will go to Game 7, and in OT, either Landeskog or Cale Makar will score the game-winning goal in Game 7 OT to send them to the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, that's probably not going to be accurate. Most things I say aren't accurate, but at least I try. Now on to Vegas versus Edmonton. This is going to be a good series. If this series happens, I'm going to really enjoy this series. I think Vegas is the way better team, but McDavid and Draisaitl can just take over games. That makes this a wild card. I think Vegas will win in 6, but Edmonton will play with them. Like every game's going to be a close game, and they do have the ability to just take over that series. With their offense, they could easily beat Vegas, but they would have to have an incredible series, which I just don't see that happening. Now on to Boston versus Tampa, two best regular season teams. Rematch of the 2018 Eastern Conference semifinals. And this is going to be a close series. I do see Boston taking this in 6 games. I think all the games are going to be close, but Boston's going to steal it with their first line, and Tuukka Rask is going to stand on his head. Okay, so now on to the next one. Washington versus Philadelphia. Now, I see this being a very, very good series, but I think Philadelphia is going to win this. I don't know why, but I just see Philadelphia winning this. I don't know how they would win this. Like, I'm talking like they're a bad team. They are not a bad team, but I never thought that Philadelphia would beat Washington with the 2 current teams that they have. And now I feel like they can beat them, and they will beat them. I think it's going to be 7 games, but Philadelphia will go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And now, third round. Starting in the West, we have Vegas versus Colorado. I think this is going to be a very close, very interesting series, but I think the Colorado Avalanche will beat the Knights in 5 games. I think they're going to be decently close games. I think the Avs' first line and their skilled players will just take over this series, and they're just going to take the series in 5. Their speedy, young first line mostly is going to just take over this series and take over these playoffs pretty much and send them on to the finals. Okay, now we got Philadelphia versus Boston. This is like a dream of a series. Boston, the big bad Bruins, and then you got Philadelphia, who is one of the toughest teams ever in like the mid-70s. And I feel like this is gonna bring back the kind of feel of that 70s hockey. It's gonna be a very physical but also pretty skilled series. I see Philadelphia taking it in 7. That's just my gut feeling. I'm going with Philadelphia. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that Philadelphia is going to have a great playoffs. So now we got the finals. Colorado Avalanche versus Philadelphia Flyers. This is going to be a very good series, very good finals. I don't see Philly winning it though. I've had a gut feeling that they were going to go to the finals. I do not see them winning this. I think Colorado will win the 2020 Stanley Cup final, and they will be the 2020 Stanley Cup champions if we have one. So let's see what the NHL 20 simulation thinks about this. So now let's see what NHL 20 simulation thinks of this. Okay, we're only 2 games in, but I just wanted to point out the fact that Ovi has 5 goals, Carlson has 4. Holy crap. Yeah, Ovi got a hat-trick in the first game and then 2 goals in the second game. Sagan has 3 goals. Yeah, and Yannick Weber scored 2 goals in the first game for the Nashville Predators. Alright, so I'll give you guys a quick sneak peek of what it's like 2 games through. And let's start simming the next. So after 3 games here, Tampa is the only team that still has a chance to sweep. Alright, so here it is after 4 games. We got St. Louis down 3-1 against Nashville. Colorado down 3-1 to Dallas. Winnipeg and Vegas tied 2-2. Same with the Oilers and the Flames. Then in the East we have Columbus up 3-1 against the Bruins. That's interesting. Washington up 3-1 against Carolina. Pittsburgh up 3-1 against Philadelphia. And Tampa swept the Leafs. So they're the only team on to the second round so far. So after 6 games in each series, here we are. All the Western Conference games or series are tied at 3, all going to Game 7. And none of the Eastern series are going to Game 7. With Columbus beating Boston in 6, Washington beating Carolina in 5, Tampa sweeping Toronto, and Pittsburgh beating Philadelphia in 6. Alright, so let's see how this goes. St. Louis with the comeback victory. They were down 3-1. Vegas beats Winnipeg. Colorado beats Dallas. Edmonton beats Calgary. This is all how I predicted, other than Columbus and Pittsburgh I didn't predict. So pretty close so far. So the closer we get to the finals, the more frequently I am going to update you guys. So after 2 games, every series is one team is up 2-0. So St. Louis is beating Colorado 2-0. Edmonton is beating Vegas 2-0. Tampa is beating Columbus 2-0. And Washington is beating Pittsburgh 2-0. Okay, so after 4 games, St. Louis is up 3-1. Edmonton is up 3-1. Tampa's up 4-0. Or they won 4-0. And Washington is up 3-1. St. Louis wins the series in 5. Edmonton wins the series in 5. And Pittsburgh wins another one to keep them in it. And Pittsburgh forces a Game 7. Alright, who's going on? Pittsburgh wins again. Oh, 3 straight against Washington. So now the conference finals are St. Louis and Edmonton, Tampa and Pittsburgh. Tampa has not lost a game yet. Okay. They keep that streak alive. St. Louis up 2-1 on Edmonton. Oh, and they lost their first game. Pittsburgh beats them. 3-1 for St. Louis. 2-2. Can Edmonton keep them in it? Keep themselves in it? Yes, they can. 3-2 for Pittsburgh. Can Edmonton win? Yes, Edmonton wins to force a Game 7. Tampa needs to win to force a Game 7, or else they lose, and they're out with 4 total losses in all 3 rounds. And they lost. They didn't lose a single game for the first 2 rounds, and then lost in 6 games to Pittsburgh in the Eastern Conference Finals. Alright, so who joins Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup Finals? St. Louis Blues are back for another year. Can St. Louis repeat, or does Pittsburgh win their 3rd in 5 years? Pittsburgh takes a 1-0 lead. Crosby's tearing it up with 25 points in 21 games. 2-1. 2-2. 3-2. Okay, now we're gonna go in and actually sim it. I'm just gonna sim period by period here. 1-0 Pittsburgh. Jack Johnson scores with 5 seconds left. 1-1. Jaden Swartz scores. 3rd period. St. Louis needs to win this to stay alive. And they do. 2 big goals in the 3rd period. And Hornquist tries to bring it back, but he can't. So that forces a Game 7. I believe St. Louis is the home team for this game. Alright, 1st period. 3-1 St. Louis. Looking like they could go back to back. 6-1 St. Louis. And they will go back to back Stanley Cup champions. Pittsburgh tries to bring it back, but it was too late. 6-3 for St. Louis Blues. Alright, so that was my predictions, and then we did a simulation. Comment down below who you think will win the cup, and if you did a simulation too, then comment down below who won.